So good day everyone. I am Sunaira Bilao Nano together with my partner Miss Chari Ubiana, and we will be discussing the curriculum guide and the lesson plan that we have created. So let us start first with our curriculum guide, which is English grade 7. So we have here the content standard, performance standard, MELCs, subcompetencies, formative and summative assessment. So we have created a two content standard and two performance standard, and it has four most essential learning competencies in every content and performance standard. So now let us start with the first content standard. So the first one here is that the learner will analyze the suitable vocabulary words used in different contexts of writings and speeches. And the performance standard is the learner will be able to use of familiar vocabulary words to express ideas in different contexts of writings and speeches. So these content and performance standards consist of four most essential learning competencies. So we have here the first one, supply words that completes an analogy. So this milk is aligned with the performance standard, and it has a five subcompetencies, which are: the first one, chose the appropriate cause analogies to a given effect analogies. Number two, write the antonym analogies of a given words. Number three, use the appropriate synonym analogies stated in the sentence. Number four, apply the correct solution analogies to a problem analogies. Number five, explain the different relationships of analogies. So that was the subcompetences of the first milk. So we have here the next one is write a reflection paper about the given movies. So this milk is aligned with the performance standard. So it has a four subcompetencies. So we have here the first one, make a reflection paper to a movie Every Child is Special by Amir Khan. Number two, write a reflection paper about the given movies. Number three, analyze the steps on how to write a reflection paper. Number four, explain the difference of the reflection paper to other academic writing. So that was the subcompetencies of our the second milk. Can you move up, ate po? So we have here number three milks, which is analyze complex ideas in a given text. So this milk is aligned with the content standard. So it has four um, subcompetencies. The first one is identify the sentences using simple future tense. Number two, distinguish the feature that is being contrasted and compared in each following sentences. Number three, rewrite sentences using the list of idiomatic prepositions. Number four, rewrite active voice into passive voice in a sentence. Number five, identify the verbal in each sentence and indicate whether it is a gerund and infinitive or participle. And that was the five subcompetencies of the third milks. And we have here the number four milks, which is the deliver an informative speech relative to societal issues. And with this this milk is aligned with the performance standards. So we have here it's four subcompetencies. We have number one, make an outline for informative speech. Number two, create a maximum of 2 minutes informative speech topic. Number three, write an informative speech on how we can be safe from the COVID-19. Number four, demonstrate an effective informative speech. So that ends the first content and performance standards. Now, let us proceed to the second content and performance standard. So we have here demonstrate the grammatical structures of English to communicate effectively in oral and written discourse. And its performance standard is that construct grammatically correct sentences and varied theme-based oral and written activities. So we also have four most essential learning competencies for this content and performance standards. So number one here is that explain the different types of punctuation marks and its uses. So this MELCS is aligned with the content standard. So this MELCS also has a four sub-competencies. So we have here the number one, analyze the correct punctuation marks used in sentences. Number two, use appropriate punctuation marks in a sentences. Number three, compare the different kinds of punctuation marks. Number four, classify the given sentences according to its use of punctuation marks. So that was the five subcompetencies of our first MELCS for the second content and performance standard. So we have here the number two, construct different structural classification of the English sentences, which is aligned to performance standard. And it also has, can you move up po, Miss Charlie? It has also four subcompetencies. We have here the number one, explain the different structure classification of the English sentences. Number two, construct simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. Number three, compare the different and compare the dependent and interdependent clause. Number four, analyze the proper punctuation marks used in the sentences. So that was the four subcompetencies of the second MELC. And now let us proceed to the third MELCs. Can you move? Yes, thank you. So we have here number three, MELCs, which is explain the rules of using correct prepositions in the English grammar, which is um which is also aligned in the content standard. So it has four sub competencies. We have number one number one, use the correct prepositions. Can you no ate? Can you go back ate? We have here number one, use the correct prepositions in the sentences. Number two, analyze the appropriate use of prepositions of time. Number three, analyze the appropriate use of prepositions of place. Number four, classify the use of preposition. So that was the four subcompetencies of the third MELCS. And now let us proceed to the number four MELCS, which is, can you move up po? Thank you. Now let us proceed to the number four MELCS, which is use the appropriate types of pronoun relative to the use of the noun. So this most essential learning competency is aligned with the performance standard. So now let us move to its sub-competencies. We have three. Number one, explain the different types of pronoun. Number two, write sentences using the different pronouns. Number three, compare the demonstrative, relative, indefinite, interrogative, personal, and the reflexive or intensive pronouns. So that was the three subcompetencies of the number four MELCS. And now let us proceed to the formative and the summative assessment of our curriculum guide. So in formative assessment, we have quiz, essay writing, oral recitation, speech writing, journal, story writing. And for the summative assessment, we have multiple choice test, matching type test, easy writing test, speech delivery. So through this formative and summative assessment, the students will be able to learn and understand the lessons that the teacher have created or prepared. So that's all for the curriculum guide, and now I am giving the virtual floor to Miss Chari Ubiena to further explain the lesson plans that we have created. Thank you very much.
So, thank you. Now I will introduce to you our lesson plans. So we have created a 5 semi-detailed lesson 4A's lesson plan format. At this point, let us start discussing it. So first, we have so this is our first semi-detailed lesson plan English for grade 7. So here we have first is competency. So at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to A. Identify simple future tense and use verb correctly and appropriately. B. Analyze the simple future tense with will and will not in a sentence. So second is the subject matter. So in the subject matter, we have a topic, materials, reference. Our topic is simple future tense. So the materials that we use is PowerPoint and the laptop. So the reference uh, that the subject we that the reference of the topic is the grade 7 English book Facts versus Opinion 3 page 132 to 134. So third is we have a learning procedures. So in the learning procedures we have preliminary activities which are which have an opening prayer, greetings, and the attendance. So next in the learning procedure is the review. So as a sort of review, the teacher will ask the students about the previous lesson. So next is the activity. So in the activity, the teacher will ask students what they can say about the picture below using the simple future tense. So here is the picture of our activity. So next we have a analyze. So analyze, in analysis rather, the teacher will explain about the simple future tense. So next to the analysis is we have the abstraction. So in the abstraction, the teacher will the teacher will tell the students to watch a short video clip in order to form a simple future tense and it simply add will before the root word of the verb. So next of the abstraction is we have the application. So in the application, um, that to check whether the students have understand about the discussion. So the teacher will divide into 4 groups, and each group will construct a sentence using simple future tense and use the verb correctly and appropriately. And next, we have the evaluation. So in evaluation, the students will complete each sentence with a simple future tense of the verb in the parentheses. So and lastly, we have the assignment. So in the assignment, the students will write a short essay and underline all the verbs in the simple sentence. So next we have a second semi-detailed lesson plan English for grade 7. So first is we have a competencies. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to identify the passive and active voice in a sentence. B. Compare and contrast the active and passive voice using the graphic organizer. So C. Specify if the sentence is in passive or active voice. So we have here as the second is subject matter. So in the subject matter, we have a topic. So our topic is all about a active and passive voice. Then the materials that we use is PowerPoint, pictures, Manila paper, and the marker. So the reference of our topic is English book, grade 7, writing a book review, 5 page 270 to 272. So in the learning procedure, we have a preliminary activities, which is the opening prayer, greetings, and the attendance. So after after the preliminary activities, we have a review. So a sort of review that the teacher will recap about their past lesson. So after the review, we have here the activity. So in the activity, the teacher will show a picture to show to the students for the short activity or activities. The students will write a scenario about the picture using active and passive voice. Let students to write on the board. So here are the picture that um, the students showed. So next is the analysis. So in the analysis, the teacher will introduce the topic to the students by using the PowerPoint presentation as a guide for the lesson proper. So next of the analysis is the abstraction. So in the abstraction, the teacher will ask the students the following question to give a brief summary of the discussion. Those students who will participate, the oral recitation will receive a point. So after the abstraction, we have a application, which is the group activity. So in the group activity, the teacher will divide the students into four groups via count off. The teacher hands out the activity sheets for the students to be guided in the activity. So next in the application is we have here the fourth is evaluation. Write A in the blanks. So the teacher will um, we'll write A in the blanks before the number if the sentence is active and P if passive voice. So and lastly is the assignment. So in the assignment, um, the students will get a one half sheet of paper, then identify the voice in each sentence and write on their paper if it is an active or passive voice. So the third semi-detailed lesson plan, English for grade 7. We have here the first is the competencies. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to identify the correct or proper usage of punctuation marks in a sentence. B. Use proper punctuation marks in a sentence. C. Appreciate the use of punctuation marks in a sentence. Then second is we have here a subject matter. So the topic is the punctuation marks. So the materials that we use is laptop for PowerPoint, pictures, and the marker. Um, next, uh, the reference for our for the topic is the Phoenix textbook. So the third is the learning procedure. So we have here a preliminary activities, so which the prayer, greetings, and the attendance. So review as a sort of review, the teacher will recap about the past lesson. So next is after the review, we have a activity. So in this activity, um, before the proper lesson starts, the teacher will show a different types of pictures. Pictures, the students observe the picture and let them to answer what pictures is all about. So after the activity, we have here a analyze. So that in the analyze, the teacher will introduce the topics to the students by using the PowerPoint presentation as a guide for the lesson proper. So after the analysis is that the abstraction. So in the abstraction, the teacher will ask a question based on the lesson discussed to the student discuss. So to those students who will participate, the oral recitation will receive an extra points. So after the instruction, we have here the application. So in the application, the teacher will pair the students. In 1 minute, the pair students will write a sentence using a proper punctuation marks. So let the students give their answers on the board. So after the application, we have here the evaluation. So in the evaluation, the teacher will ask students to prepare a one-half sheet of paper for a short quiz. And lastly, we have the assignment. So in the assignment, the students will write a short poem using the different types of punctuation marks in the paragraph. So here is our the fourth semi-detailed lesson plan English grade 7. So here we have a competency. At the end of the discussion, the students will be able to A. Explain the simple, compound, and complex, simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. B. Differentiate the difference between simple, compound complex, and compound complex sentences. C. Construct different structure classification of the English sentences. So, second is the subject matter. So in the subject matter, we have here a topic, which is the different structural classification of the English sentences. Our teaching materials is laptop and pictures. So the reference um, that came, the topic came is which is the internet. So third is the learning procedure. So in the learning procedure, we have here a routinary activities, which is greetings, prayer, and the checking of the attendance. So after the routinary activities, we have a review. So a sort of review, the teacher will ask question to the students to recall the lesson from the previous lesson. So next is we have the activity. Before they proceed to the lesson proper, the teacher will flash a picture and the students will guess what it is. This game is called the Guess the Peak. So after the activities, we have the analysis. After after that wake up game, the teacher will now start to discuss the next lesson. So after the analysis, we have here a abstraction. So in the abstraction, after the discussion, the teacher will ask few questions to recall what they had discussed. So after the abstraction, we have a application. So in the application, the teacher will group the class into four groups. The students will create a dialogue to every picture that the teacher will show using the four common sentence structures. And lastly, we have a evaluation. Um, no, the fourth is the evaluation rather, or the assessment. So the students will identify what type of sentence structure is being referred in the given sentences. And lastly, we have here a assignment. So the students will create a 5 sentences to every sentence structure. So and lastly, we have our fifth semi-detailed lesson plan English for grade 7. So first is we have here our competency. At the end of the discussion, the students will be able to identify the pronoun used in the sentences, B. Compare the demonstrative, relative, indefinite, interrogative, personal, and the reflexive intensive pronouns based on their uses. C. Create sentences using the different types of pronoun. So second is we have here subject matter. So in the subject matter, we have here our topic. So the topic is different types of pronoun. So the teaching materials that we use is we have a laptop. Then the reference of our topic is the internet. So the third is the learning procedure. So in the learning procedure, we have here our routinary activities, which is the greetings, prayer, and the checking of the attendance. After the routinary activities, we have here a review. So, as a sort of review, the teacher will ask questions to the students to recall the lesson from the previous lesson. So, after the review, we have here the activity. So, in this activity, before the lesson that will be discussed starts, the teacher will show a pictures that the students will guess if the picture is referring to the pronouns he or she. So after the activity, we have here the analysis. Uh, Before the teacher will discuss the different types of pronouns, he or she will explain first what the meaning of pronouns. So um, in the analysis, the teacher will explain the whole topic of the discussion. So next is we have here the abstraction. So in the abstraction, the teacher will ask question to recall the topic that they have discussed. So after the abstraction, we have an A application. So in this application, the teacher will group this class into pair. Every pair will create a story and stand as a third person where the different types of pronoun will be used. So the fourth is the evaluation or the assessment. So in the evaluation or assessment, the students will compare and contrast the different types of pronoun using the Venn diagram. So and lastly is we have the assignments. So in this assignment, the students will identify the pronouns used in every sentences. So our lesson plan was based from the sub-competencies in our curriculum guide. And that's the end of our discussion about the curriculum guide and the lesson plans that me, Charime Obiena, and my partner, Miss Sonaira Nano, have created. Thank you very much.